Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Double Crown Talk Time Special Hour. Today, we're going to be talking to Richard about his gaming history and other things.
Other things. Ooh.
Get ready. This series is about us answering questions about ourselves, the gaming industry, and also games in general.
Yeah.
If you like what you see, give us a like, subscribe, leave a comment below. If you have a question for us, put it in the comments, and we'll answer it in an upcoming episode.
Yeah.
So, Richard, what got you into video games?
My dad.
Done.
See you later, guys.
What age was that?
I don't know, to be exact. We had a Nintendo when I was a kid.
Okay.
So, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I remember that it was set up in my parents' room, and I had Duck Hunt, Super Mario Brothers, Castlevania, and Rygar. Also, I've got notes because
you're prepared.
Because I'm prepared.
And don't want to forget anything.
Yeah.
And also want to say what games you played in the order.
In order, exactly.
So you don't need a flow chart to figure out what you played and when.
Yeah. But yeah, so specifically the games that I remember the most are those four. I'm sure there was probably something else.
Sure.
But Duck Hunt I remember because of the light gun. I mean, that's super easy. I remember if you learning to put the gun right up to the screen, it was really easy to cheat that way. Super Mario Brothers is Super Mario Brothers. You know, I think everyone had that pretty much. Castlevania was one of those things where I think my dad was just really interested in it. He played like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff when I was a kid, so anything that was like kind of in the fantasy setting was like cool by default, pretty much.
Like vampires and castles and shit.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the stuff that's in Castlevania, yeah, in fantasy. And then Rygar. So Rygar is an interesting game because it's similar to kind of like a Castlevania. It was in like that Metroidvania genre where once you like leveled up, it was like an action RPG. It was weird. I didn't get very far because again I was 4,
real young,
3,
real
4.
young.
Yeah, like I
could barely hold the controller.
Basically, yeah. But basically, Rygar, it was like the parts that I remember is you started off and it was side-scrolling, and your weapon was a shield. You had a shield, and it had like a chain on it. So like Castlevania, you would throw your shield and bring it back.
That's awesome.
And that's how you attacked. And that's really cool. That's what I remember from Rygar. I think they made a remake of it, like Wii, I think, or something. And it probably had stupid motion controls. I don't really remember. Sure. But Rygar was certainly cool. None of those games really like spoke to me. I was like, these are the fun. But Dad,
Are you sure Duck Hunt didn't speak to you?
I mean, it did, but you know, it was like, oh, this is a cool thing that my dad does more than anything. Like he would tell me, he's like, Rygar's so cool. He throws his shield, and like, you know, that's what I remember more than actually playing those games.
Sure.
But that's got to be where it starts. I don't recall. I mean, my grandma had an Atari Jaguar, or I don't remember that. They had like the joystick and the button or whatever. I never played it. It never worked, and I found that after I had played games. So the NES was certainly my first foray. Again, showed to me by my dad.
Cool.
Moving on past that, though, it was the Sega Genesis. And that was, I don't know the age, maybe 6? 5, 6? It wasn't, I mean, in my memory, it was pretty, you know, there was where I played Duck Hunt, and then I had my Genesis, you know, that was like where my childhood started with games.
Okay, so, like, you didn't have any loyalty to Nintendo or anything like that?
No, I mean, I was 4. My dad didn't have any loyalty to Nintendo. But thinking back, I mean, so like the whole thing with like the Sega Genesis versus the Super Nintendo, I think like the Genesis was cheaper, if I remember correctly.
I think that's right.
From what I've read. But even if it wasn't, I know that it was the whole like Sega does what Nintendo don't. Like that, like this is the adult, like hardcore, edgy gaming console, which knowing my dad would totally fucking get him. Yeah. He'd be like, oh, I don't want that Super Mario Bros. Bullshit. Give me fucking Streets of Rage, which is a game that I played a lot with my dad. Yeah, with Sega Genesis, I rented a lot of games when I was young. I didn't, like, to my knowledge, I didn't own like a ton of games. I know like there were certain kids that had like they bought the games, but I probably played more and never beat games just because I rented them all the time. It felt like maybe once every 2 weeks or something I could rent a game or some kind of like allowance sort of situation.
Back then it was a lot easier to rent games too.
True, because games were really fucking expensive.
Yeah, like $100.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean like $100 and then adjust that for inflation now and games are so cheap. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember specifically some of the examples, but like I remember like my dad, so there was this game that I played on Sega Genesis, Shining Force 2. It is a turn-based strategy RPG, similar to like a like kind of like a Final Fantasy Tactics, not nearly as deep as that to my memory. Closer to like a Fire Emblem, I think, where, you know, you'd move around like your certain spaces and attack and stuff. And I remember playing that game, and again, growing up in a D&D household with my dad, learning like fantasy stuff, like this game was fucking awesome. Like Shining Force 2 was my shit. I love that game. I wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. You know, I was like 5, 6 maybe. Okay. But I loved that game. I would rent it all the time. That's the only, like, every time I went there, I remember I can still see the cover of like the guy with his cape and like holding the sword and like I want to rent this game every single time. So I remember there was a certain point where my dad went to Blockbuster and was like, "Hey, how much will you sell me this game for?" Because I don't think we could find it to buy anywhere. And they're like, "We can't sell the games." And he was like, which makes sense because they're going to make way more money if we just rent it all the time. But he was like, "Okay, well, how much do I owe you if I just never return it? Like, what if I rented it? Like, how long, like, how much did the late," like he pretty much went through, like, I remember talking to this poor fucking like Blockbuster employee, like
some high schooler that's like, I'm not getting paid enough to deal with this.
And my dad's like, ultimately was like, what if I just steal it? Like, what's the fine? And because I when I could see it from two ways, he's like, "Oh, I could make my son really happy because I'm sure it was probably making my birthday or something." And I was like, "I want Shining Force too." And he was probably tired of renting it for me all the fucking time. Yeah. Because he played games as well. So, like, you know, thinking back, the two big things I remember that we played a lot were NHL 94 and Streets of Rage.
Okay.
So I would play him in NHL. I was really bad at it. I'd make him take his goalie out and then whoop his ass. And I'd, like, make fun of him. And he'd be like, "It's because I took my goalie out." I'm like, "Doesn't matter. Still beat you." And, like, you know, run around the house. But if he didn't take his goalie out, I would lose like 6-0. Like, you know, it's one or the other. Like, no one ever, it was never close. And then Streets of Rage was, you know, the side-scrolling. Did you ever play those games? It was like the beat 'em ups.
I think I played it in the arcade.
Yeah, super fun games. I don't know. Maybe we had 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. I don't remember how many of them there were. I remember I was always the black guy with the yellow shirt.
I remember that. And there was Did he have a mohawk? Was he like based off Mr. T?
I don't think so. No, I remember, and I think there was a girl with rollerblades.
Okay, I do remember her.
And then the main character looked kind of like Ken from Street Fighter. He had blonde hair and like a red vest, and his name was Axel. That's what I remember specifically.
Dude, the 80s.
It's all coming back to me. Yeah. So those I played those games a lot with him because we could both play together. But Shining Force 2 was kind of that first game where I was like, I like games. You know, it wasn't I think Duck Hunt's fun, or my dad thinks Rygar's cool, so Rygar's cool. It was, I genuinely like this. My dad didn't at all.
I formulated my own opinion.
Yeah, like that was like the first, that was the first big one where I was just like, man, this is really something special. And I think a big part of it, honestly, was kind of out of my control. I was too young to ever beat the game. However, since it was rented and we rented it all the time, I picked it up once and there was a saved file on there. Someone saved their game that had owned it previously or rented it previously. And they were at the end of the game. They had like maxed out characters with like all the stuff you can get. So I remember it was like a Saturday after, like morning, afternoon. And I kept beating the game. Like I
Over
would
and
just
over?
and I would run outside and like make my dad stop mowing the grass and be like, "Dad, I beat Shining Force 2 again." He'd be like, "That's great." And then I'd run back inside and I'd like reset the Sega and like boot it up and beat the last boss again in like 15 20 minutes and run outside and be like, "Dad, I beat Shining Force 2 again. I beat it." And, and I just did that for I couldn't tell you how long. It seemed like forever, maybe like 10 times. Like just kept doing it over and so I could just keep beating the game, And I think at the time I knew like I was kind of cheating, but it felt
only
good.
a little bit.
Oh well.
You only let someone play the entire game for you.
Exactly. I fought the last fight for him.
I mean, it still counts.
Yeah.
Would you consider that one of your favorite game series?
Yeah.
Then?
Definitely.
Have they come out with anything since then?
Yes. Never played them. This is totally different.
Oh, okay.
Because so there was Shining in the Darkness. So this
Okay.
and there's a little bit more to this story, I guess. So Shining in the Darkness was like a dungeon crawler RPG, totally different type of game. But I remember we were always wanting to. We knew it was Shining Force 2, and I remember we tried to find Shining Force 1, and my dad would I think he worked at a metal working factory at the time or something. I don't remember specifically. Maybe it was a plastics place. I don't remember. But there was some guys there that played games a lot, and I remember he talked to one of them about it, and we he was like, "I have the first one. Do you want to borrow it?" And we were like, "Of course." And it gave us Shining in the Darkness, and it was a completely different type of game. And I'm like, "This can't be right." So Shining Force is like a spiritual successor.
Okay.
So there is a Shining Force 1. Basically plays it's a turn-based, RPG or turn-based strategy RPG thing. Yeah, whatever.
MMO.
MOBA shooter. Cover-based shooter, sorry.
Yeah. That's the important distinction.
Yeah. But so I only ever played the first one. I would say, that's a big game of my childhood, I would say. Because, again, that was the first time where I was like, I like this a lot.
What were some other series
Yeah,
that
so
you liked?
Super Nintendo was the other console that was out then. I didn't have one, but my grandma did. I think she bought it so that the kids had something to play, and the only game she had was Super Mario World, which was super fun.
Yeah,
on the Super Nintendo.
classic game.
Yeah, great game. There were, but none of. I was the only, I had one cousin, and I don't think to this day he never to memory he never played games that much. I know he doesn't really now. So I think my dad was able to convince my grandma to let us borrow it twice. For maybe a month or 2, 3 months, something like that.
Okay.
Just because it had other titles for me to play. Specifically, there's just a few I'm going to name here. Final Fantasy 3, which is really Final Fantasy 6. A Link to the Past, that old Zelda. Super Mario RPG, and Super Mario All-Stars. Yeah. So
Those are some heavy hitters.
they're, yeah. So the Final Fantasy game was my first experience with Final Fantasy and kind of a turn-based, sort of game that way. That it was similar to what I was used to with Shining Force,
I was about to ask.
but it was different at the same time because it was turn-based combat, not turn-based strategy. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
However, I don't know how old I was, maybe 5. My reading comprehension was nowhere near good enough to
So you're
play.
just sitting there pressing buttons.
I had I could understand attack. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
could do the battles, but I didn't know what was going on in the story. So,
Sure.
yeah, and so I remember really liking Final Fantasy, but getting frustrated because I didn't know what to do. And my dad was would come and sit with me and kind of try and explain to me what was going on, what I needed to do. But he's like, I can't sit here and tell you what to do for this whole game. That's it's
Because that's a pretty big game.
it's a big game.
right?
Yeah, it's that would have taken a really long time, and we were renting it, so
Sure.
never. But instead, I had A Link to the Past. That was the other game I had, and that's pretty much the only Zelda game that I like.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I played through that, and me and my dad got a little bit more into that than I did because we could both kind of play it together, and it was easier. He didn't have to explain things to me as much. But I remember getting to the Dark World and everything, so I'm pretty sure we ended up beating that while we
Yeah.
had it. We may have had to rent it. Well, no, I don't think we did rent it more than once. I think we ended up beating it and returning it. I think we said we took Final Fantasy 3, 6 back, and then just kept A Link to the Past is what we did. Super Mario RPG. Have you ever played that?
Yeah.
Okay, great game. Never beat that one. That was one where we rented it. Again, both loved it. However, it was a long game.
Wasn't it 2-player too?
It may have been. We never played it 2-player.
Okay.
But we got that a little bit later, so I know that Super Mario RPG came out after like Final Fantasy VI in the US. So I don't know. I think that was the second time that we borrowed the Super Nintendo from my grandma.
Okay.
And we rented that because I think my dad just wanted to play it because he knew I liked Mario, and he's like, well, it's an RPG. That's got to be cool.
Yeah.
So I remember we rented it, and that was the first time I remember he was so like enthralled with the game that we just kept it. And like for months, like I'm sure that cost us like $100-something to have for as long as we did.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if he ever beat it. I certainly never did. I remember I put like a pirate ship and like a pearl, and then it gets really fuzzy. So
the game gets fuzzy, not your memory.
And then there was Super Mario All-Stars, which was the first time I ever learned about Super Mario Brothers 3. And I remember I found out that my aunt was really, really fucking good at Super Mario Brothers, like because she was younger than my dad, so she had like the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, or yeah, she had Super Mario Brothers 1 and 3 on regular Nintendo. So when I had Super Mario Brothers All Stars, like she was babysitting me or something one time, and was like, "You want to see some cool stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was just like, "All right," and like showed me the secrets where you can like jump behind the things, and like I was like, she's a wizard. Like, she's the best game player.
She's breaking into the game.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how you knew about this, but you are the best video gamer ever. And then I had an actual babysitter who had the guide for Super Mario Brothers 3. Wasn't nearly as good as my aunt, but she showed me how to use the guide to like figure some stuff out.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool. But you know, that's where we are there. Moving forward through the timeline.
What console are we on now?
So we just got through. So we're getting a little bit older. So
okay.
Just a quick aside from
like
there.
7.
Yeah, 7, 8. Well, I'd say, yeah.
Young adult. You'd be reading Goosebumps at this point.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so. So by this point, I mean, it's pretty much safe to say that RPGs were what I liked.
Okay.
Like I was like I knew the term RPG.
Rocket propelled grenade.
Yes. I associated it with turn-based combat in video games and turn-based combat in D&D. So that all made sense to me.
Okay.
Which is kind of like a good realization now of why I like turn-based combat so much, because of Dungeons and Dragons.
Did you play a lot of D&D as a
I
youth?
didn't play it a lot, but I sat around with my dad and my uncles while they played.
Awesome.
I remember like I have like vivid memories of them like playing on this big wooden table in our basement, and I would like sit with my action figures under the table and like make them fight and shit. But
you would act out what they were doing above the table.
I don't think so. Not
your head you
specifically.
were.
I don't know if I was. I think it was just like I thought it was cool, but I was like 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
Like I had no comprehension of what I was doing at that point, and they played it for just probably a couple of years.
Okay.
Enough to where eventually I remember I was able to understand how like the armor class system worked, and like I had like a duel with my one of my uncles, and I beat him.
Whoa.
And I remember like I was like I knew of the rule that some people played, like if your character dies, it dies, and you have to like roll a new character. And I remember like telling him like you have to throw your character away, and like yeah. So this is where the timeline gets a little crazy, is after the Super Nintendo.
Is it like my Metal Gear timeline crazy?
No, it gets crazy because a lot of things happened, I think, simultaneously.
Okay.
And I don't have a specific order for everything, but I'll kind of go by the order that I have here. So there's, at some point between Super Nintendo and PC Gaming Part 1, there's PlayStation involved as well, and Game Boy Color.
Okay. So
Game Boy Color was pretty much Pokemon. I think I had like a Tetris game. I loved it, but again, I
mean, if you are from our generation, you got a Game Boy Color for Pokemon.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10.
I had a Final Fantasy Adventures game as well, which was actually known as something else in Japan, and they just kind of threw Final Fantasy branding on it for over here.
Okay.
That was the first Final Fantasy game I owned.
Okay.
Because and see, this is where it gets a little confusing. Because PlayStation, the first time I ever saw PlayStation was at one of my uncle Bill's house, my mom's brother. We went over there. He played D&D with my dad, and we went there for Thanksgiving, and he grabbed me and my dad and pulled us aside, and he was like, "You got to see something." And we were like, "Okay." And then my dad's like, "Come on, let's go check out what he's got." I'm like, "Okay." And we go into like his like den or whatever, and he has this little fucking TV. And he like turns it on, and I remember like the PlayStation logo comes up, and I'm like, "Oh, PlayStation! Like I think I've heard of this." Mm-hmm. And like Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, "What?" And then you see like the intro scene with like the train and like Cloud and all this, and I'm like,
"This is the future."
I was like, "He's the coolest looking guy." And then I'm like, "He's got a big sword," and then he like does like combat, and it's 3D combat, and I'm like, "Dad, I need this. I have to have this." Why is this up here? And I don't think I said anything to that effect, but I remember being like, "Can I play it?" And he was like, "Well, we need to go eat dinner." And I was like, "Fuck." And so like we're eating dinner, and I don't even remember eating. Like, you know, it was one of those like I just remember thinking like I need to play that game. I need to play it. I need to play it. I need to play it. And I remember like leaving. I was like, "Can I borrow your PlayStation in that game?" And he was like, "I'm still playing it." And my dad was like, "Yeah, we can't borrow all like his whole setup." And I was like, "But I really want to play." So like that would like I was just like enamored, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" And I think that was before the Game Boy, if I remember. That was the first time I had seen a PlayStation, and it again blew me away. That was like the coolest thing. It was like the first time I saw Dragon Ball Z and didn't know what it was. It like nearly changed my life. So Pokemon was cool. I mean, I played had the cards in the game and all that shit. But there were some cool moments with that, and like trading with people at school and stuff. But nothing too crazy. You know what I mean? Like it took up a big chunk of time, but I wouldn't say it was super impactful. You know, it was just something really fun for a while. But eventually, at some point, and it was I think pretty late in its life, we got a PlayStation 1.
Okay.
So, and the only reason I say it was pretty late in its life is because I remember the first game I got was Tomb Raider 3.
That makes sense then.
So, and I had seen one before. I had a friend that lived in my neighborhood who his older brother bought a PlayStation, and I remember that's the first time I saw Tomb Raider 1, I think, and Resident Evil 1.
Okay.
And I think like it was again one of those like, "Hey, come check out what games I have." And then he was like, "Don't tell your mom I showed you this." And he showed us Resident Evil, and he's like, "Don't get too scared." And like, like he was like 15 and we were 7 or whatever.
The cool kid. The cool older brother.
He was actually pretty. He wouldn't share. He wouldn't let us play. He would just let us watch. Kind of thing.
The dick older brother. That let you be in the room while he did cool stuff.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I specifically remember going with my dad and getting Tomb Raider 3, and we went to, I think it wasn't EB Games, or was it Babbage's?
Fucking Babbage's. Oh my god,
Babbage's. Yeah, we went to Babbage's in the mall, and he was like, "What PlayStation game do you want? What do you want your first PlayStation game to be?" And I just remember looking at like the glass thing behind the employee, and I was like, "Tomb Raider 3." And like, of course, it's just Lara Croft with like huge tits on the front holding guns, and he was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I want Tomb Raider 3." Get Tomb Raider 3. Have you ever played Tomb Raider 3?
Yeah.
Starts off where you slide down and there's the spikes. Yeah, I just slid into the spikes for hours. I didn't know you could jump like off of like sliding.
Oh,
yeah, so that was cool.
Is that the one? Did you ever get past that?
Yeah, eventually.
Was there a T-Rex at the bottom of that, or was that Tomb Raider 2?
That might have been 2. There was, I think there was a tiger eventually you ran into. I didn't get very far.
I just remember there being a T-Rex while my aunt was playing.
There may have been.
I was like,
there may have been a T-Rex one of them. Yeah, that was a shit purchase.
Going back to Babbage's, if you don't know what that is, it was
like GameStop.
Yeah, it was a very cool store. That
I don't remember much about it.
I went there a few times and like they had everything. They had like Pokemon cards.
Oh, cool.
Like trading cards, video games, like a bunch of nerdy shit.
Yeah, I just remember games.
Yeah, it was cool.
We bought.
I think it's out of business.
Yeah, I they probably bought by EB, GameStop, or something. Yeah. But yeah, Babbage's was cool. I remember we bought Light Crusaders. That was a game I had on Sega Genesis there. That was a weird puzzle game, like puzzle RPG thing.
Okay.
But back to PlayStation. So had Tomb Raider 3, just whatever. But the big games on there outside of the Final Fantasy system. So I had my PlayStation, and I remember my dad had Diablo 1 on PlayStation. So again, I don't know. I know it came out on PC first, so I don't know. I guess I could look up the years, but meh. So I don't know exactly what time this was, but we had Diablo 1, Tekken 3, and a bunch of demo discs from Pizza Hut. Ultimately, I ended up getting Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. So I knew when I saw Final Fantasy 7, that's when I learned like what the series was and had a better idea of like, this is clearly they're making games in like a franchise, essentially. Like I understood like the name Final Fantasy 7 was an RPG, a game that I would like. If it said that, they had swords and you could fight things, monsters, and level up. And I'm like, that's
what I'm about.
Yeah, like I made that connection. So I remember when Final Fantasy 8 came out and when Final Fantasy 9 came out, I saw them at I think they had advertisements at Blockbuster. So again, still in the renting games period. Losing my track. Get me back on. Hurry up.
Refer to your notes. You're talking about loving Final Fantasy as a series.
Thank you. Blockbuster. Advertisements. I knew when games were coming out. Finally, I had a reference point. I could see Final Fantasy 8 with like the characters and like the date and be like, Mom, I need this.
Prepare.
Yeah, I was like, I need this. Like, I need to have this when it comes out.
Yeah.
And
Day one.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And she's like, oh, ha ha ha. I'm like, no. Like, this is important. I have to have it. So I got Final Fantasy 8. I had played 7. I think my uncle eventually let me borrow it.
Sure.
But I never beat 7. I have by this point, but at the time. And did you ever own a PlayStation 1? I forgot.
No.
You didn't. Okay. So you didn't.
Cody did.
Were there memory cards on 64?
There was a memory expansion.
Okay.
Memory Plus or something.
Okay.
That you needed to play.
Because I had some pretty hardcore learning times with memory cards with my PlayStation.
It's not an easy concept.
Especially when you don't know.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first times I needed a memory card because I had Tomb Raider and it didn't really matter. I rented Mega Man Legends because I was like, oh, it's like an RPG, like a Mega Man, like run around and he has spiky hair. It's like Final Fantasy. This is cool. Like I was a weeaboo, didn't even know. And like I remember, like I turned the game off, turned it back on. Or I was trying to quit or something. It was like, you need to save. And I was trying to save, and it wouldn't let me save. I had a memory card, but it was full.
Oh.
And I was like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Like, let me just delete something. So we're calling around, like, everyone we know that's a little, like, our neighbors and stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, you gotta... And eventually we found out, yeah, you have to turn the PlayStation on with no game in it. And I was like, I just played this game for, like, hours. Like, I was like, yeah. So that happened. So, yeah, Final Fantasy's cool. Diablo 1 was cool. I wasn't very good. It was scary. It was a dark game. Spooky game. My dad played that a lot. Mm-hmm. But it was fun. I remember he was really good at it. I would, like, try, but, I could never do as well as he could.
Now, after that, after your PS1 days, did you move on to a PS2, or did you? What did you
there's the PC time in there too. So this
simultaneously as PS1.
I think so. It was before PS2,
but not before PS1.
Yeah,
okay.
But I don't. Maybe during at the same time.
Sure.
Because here's what's important about the PC is I had a friend named Derek who him and I would play Tekken 3. Like every day. This was like the first time I'd ever, I think there's another PC example, which I'll go into in a second, like being super competitive with games. and now
Okay.
I love Dota, as you can see. So this is like
Bleed
bleed blue, dude. Hashtag. What's up, PPD? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for watching my video. So yeah, the first time I I think I played football when I was a kid,
Sure.
so I kind of had that going on. But this was like something I did in my free time to just like challenge myself and get better. This is me and my friend Derek. He would come over after school and we would play Tekken 3 until we had to go to bed. Like we would eat dinner like at whoever's house, but we would just train basically with each other, and we would like
dojo.
Yeah, like we would like meet up on the playground like during recess and just talk about different strategies and like, oh, I think I'm gonna try working on my Yoshimitsu stuff, and like we were deep in that shit, dude. Like I honestly I wish that there would have been more people to play. Like we could like I had friends, but none of them could beat us. That was the thing. Like we would just wipe the floor with them.
Sure.
And like we were the only two. Like he played Jin and I played Brian, and that was it. Like we would just play each other and then have our own little tournaments and like tally it up and see who was the better player, and we didn't know anyone else that was good enough to compete with us. But real quick, as an aside, before I move on to the PC part, I do want to mention that I did play Metal Gear on PlayStation 1. I learned about it from a demo disc. This is mostly for you. Don't know what demo disc was. I think it was a Pizza Hut demo disc. You basically play through the snowy area, and then you get into the vents, and you see the DARPA chief. He dies, and then the demo's over. And I remember playing
That's
that.
a pretty big demo.
Yeah, it was huge. Like you get through the elevator way. Like it took me and my dad forever to figure that out.
Yeah.
We ended up getting it. We borrowed it, I think, from someone, and then buying our own copy later.
And then you got pissed off at Meryl's codec frequency.
Yeah. No, yeah, because have I told you the story?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, we did, because when we borrowed it, I don't think we got the case, and we didn't. As a fact, I know we didn't get the case. I just he put it in a game. Like took a game. It was a different friend, Eric, I think. Took it to his house, and he had VR missions, or maybe I had VR missions. I don't know. No, I think he did. And I played VR missions, and then another friend let me borrow it, maybe at school or something. I got it through like one of my own game cases. Like I took like Final Fantasy VIII and just like put it in one of the thingies and took it home. So yeah. So I remember having to call him and be like, hey, how do I do this? He's like, oh, it's on the case. I'm like, I don't have the case. And then voila. So but I remember that being probably like 3 weeks of just like trying to play the game but getting mad because we couldn't get any farther.
Sure, yeah.
So that was cool. Demo discs were so huge for me in PlayStation 1. Outside of 7, 8, 9, Final Fantasies, Tekken 3, that Diablo 1 a little bit, So we get some of that Spyro action. Play the same medieval level over and over again on that Pizza Hut demo disc.
That's the skeleton guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude.
It's a good game. Good demo, rather. So back to the competitive stuff. Moving into the PC.
We're in PC world now.
A little bit. This is, again, probably a little simultaneous with PlayStation 1. I don't know. There was the Wheel of Time demo. I know I've told you this story.
Yeah, that's how your
This is how
username.
Nablith. Yeah.
That's
so
why
at
Nablith
Nablith, this
thing.
is why Nablith exists. I played. It was a demo for the Wheel of Time. It had like 2 levels. I think that you could play single player, but it also had demo servers available to play online, which was so cool.
Yeah.
And I would play, and it was a pretty small community. Like there would be, I would say, I think there were like 2 or 3 servers open at any given point, but like most of us all played on one, and we had again like a community of like 15 people or so.
Yeah.
And there was no voice chat or anything like that. It was just all typing. Mm-hmm. And we played online. And I remember my name was just Rich. In every RPG I played and everything, it was Rich. Because you probably don't know, but in a lot of like older RPGs, to my memory, you could only have like 5 characters for your name.
Yeah.
So Rich would always fit. Like Shining Force 2, I remember my dad always was Rich. He would name me Rich. So that's kind of growing up when you got to name a character and it was the main character, I would name it Rich. Mm-hmm. So I named myself Rich, and I was going through, and I remember I was like, I knew one guy, I don't remember any of their usernames, but his name was Seth, and he lived in Germany, and he was like a good friend. I was like 7 or 8 years old and had a friend from Germany on the internet, and weird. So Wheel of Time, if you don't know, it's like a first person shooter, but you shoot spells. Like you pick up like scrolls, and then you have so many spells you can cast before it respawns, and you got to pick it up again.
Okay.
And it was like an arena shooter. So fun. It was, oh God, it was so fun. But I got really good at that. And I remember it got to the point where I remember someone asking me how old I was. I think it was my friend Seth or someone else that we knew there. And I was like, I'm 7. And they were like, no, you're not. And I was like, yeah, I'm 7. And then like, I remember there were some people that never believed me, but I had like, it was a PC game, so you could type a name pretty much as long as you wanted, if I remember. And I was like, oh, I do need a fantasy name for like D&D and stuff. And I was like, growing into being, thinking more complex about that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of like pulled up the little screen to type in my name and just been like Nabli. Like I was just kind of like sounding it out as I went. And I was like, Nablith, that sounds cool. And just boom. Then like the rest is history.
Sealed your fate. Yeah.
Like that was my new name on there. And that's what I went by instead of going by Rich, because people were like, you need a handle. Like that was the thing. Cause I'm sure they were probably all like 15 or 16 or something like that. Yeah. So like, they were like, they're used to like Doom and shit where, you played online deathmatch and you had your gaming handle.
Your parents were like, don't let them know your real name.
Yeah.
Or where you're from, or who you are. Mm-hmm. Don't talk
And my
to
parents
anybody.
were just like, yeah, you're playing a game, be rich. I'm like, okay.
They meant be wealthy.
Yeah. So that was important. I played like Half-Life and some other games that like our neighbor had given us on PC. Too hard for me, and never really got into those. The big thing on PC though, and again, this part fades a little bit into PS2, I think, but Diablo 2, and this was the game changer. So by this point, my parents were divorced, and my mom didn't have internet. Okay. We had it for a little bit, I think, but we didn't after a certain point. So Diablo 2 eventually, especially after Lord of Destruction came out, eventually became only playing it at my dad's, which was every other weekend, basically.
Sure.
But I still remember the first time we saw Diablo 2, me and my dad had never heard of it because we weren't really playing PC games at the time. We were still playing console stuff, and we knew Diablo 1 on PlayStation, not on PC,
sure,
where it originally was. So we went to, I remember it was like, yeah, this was definitely after they were divorced. So I was with my dad and my now stepmom at a friend of theirs' house, and I remember like they were like, yeah, Joey's back in the computer room playing a game, and I walk in and I'm watching him. I'm like, this game looks cool. And then I was like, no, I didn't think it looked like Diablo. I was like, what game is this? And he was like, Diablo 2. And I remember like almost falling on the ground. I screamed and ran outside. My dad was like having a beer with like the husband or whoever of the house, and I was like, Dad, you got to come here now. And he was like, what? I'm like, I don't remember his name. He was like, Joey's playing Diablo 2. And he was like, what? And I'm like, Diablo 2 is real. It's the second one. Like,
come through his beer and sprinted inside.
He ran inside with me and looked at this game and was like, yep, that looks like Diablo 2. And I'm like, can we get it? And I like, if he was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, okay. And I just sat there and like watched him and like tried to play. I think I maybe played it. He let me play it for like 5 minutes or something. Sure. I made a new character and I was like, this is so cool. So we got Diablo 2, and I don't know how long it was after that, but I maybe a couple months, something. I don't know. Again, I didn't have, because he had to get 2 copies essentially. So like one for his house and one for my mom. So we ended up getting 2 copies, and I had one there, and we played through the single player. I had no clue what BattleNet was. Like I didn't know online Diablo was a thing. I just knew the single player. But at some point I learned about the online and played it one time and was hooked. I was like, you can talk to people. It's like Wheel of Time, but Diablo. This is I'm done. A whole new world. This is what games are supposed to be. So I played that for years.
Okay.
I eventually the Lord of Destruction expansion came out, and I'm wish I could think of the lot. I probably stopped playing Diablo in 8th grade. So when I was like
15.
14, 15, yeah, and it came out in 2001. So I played it for like 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. Almost like as much as I could. Like I got friends to buy it, and I couldn't play online still, but my friend Derek that I mentioned with the Tekken thing, I would have him come over and he would watch me play because he bought it, but his computer couldn't run it very well. So he would watch me play, and he would be on potion duty. So I would run through, and he would basically, like, I'd have the mouse over here, and he would have his fingers on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I needed a potion, he would. It was his job to make sure I didn't die.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I played the fuck out of that game so much. Like I remember like me and my dad having to buy new copies of the disc because they would would wear out. Yep. Played it a lot.
Oh my god, that's incredible. I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah, they would just stop reading after a while. Like it didn't physically look weird, but it just wouldn't play. So yeah, Diablo 2. Like if that says anything, that is like
Primo.
Yeah, that is a
del
huge
Toro.
Yeah, Primo del Toro. Exactly.
Best of bull. Or something.
PlayStation 2 comes out though, and I still love my PlayStation 1 at this time. Like I said, this was probably overlapping a little bit. The Final Fantasy stuff and Diablo 2 were definitely like where that all came into play. But if I couldn't play Diablo 2 at my dad's, I would play something on PlayStation or watch Rurouni Kenshin.
Ooh.
That's also simultaneous. Like this was like the golden age of my fucking childhood. All the good things were happening. I had Cartoon Network and anime, and Diablo 2, and
PS2.
PS2 eventually. So
yeah.
Here's the thing about PS2. This morning when I was going through everything, I was like, I played Final Fantasy X, Metal Gear Solid 2. I think that's it.
Did you play 3? Metal Gear Solid 3?
I did, but okay. It was fine. It was fun. I rented Metal Gear Solid 3 on a Friday and didn't go to bed till I beat it.
Holy shit.
I just played it.
Okay.
Did the same thing with God of War, I think.
Okay. Fair.
Which I didn't even put on the list, but thinking about it, I was hyped for God of War. And here's the important part about PS2. This is when I learned about Tech TV and G4 TV. So like games media.
Yeah.
That was when I learned about that.
I think this was like when it first started happening. Right?
Well, there was Tech TV prior to that, and they had X-Play and things like that. I would watch things like the Screensavers, which was like, I don't know, just like a talk show, basically about like computer shit.
I just remember E3 being on the TV around this.
That was so that it was G4 bought Tech TV, and that's when it went more game centric.
Okay.
And then they had more game shows before it ended up being like a cops and cheaters like rerun at the channel. But I learned about games media. Now I knew kind of going into there that there were things like, how long are we running? Are we doing good?
Yeah, I was checking levels.
Cool. My levels look good. I'm talking more than you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I got my PlayStation 2 again, and this was definitely also overlapped with Diablo 2 because, like I said, this was for years. We got the PlayStation 2, and I remember I cared a lot about like Final Fantasy X. Metal Gear Solid 2 was really important to me. But this is when I played a lot of like highly acclaimed games. So your God of Wars, Kingdom Hearts, Resident Evil 4, Metal Gear Solid 2, like all these things. I learned about them watching TV. So while there were less games being played, sort of, I also played a lot more. I think I got the most out of that that generation.
Okay.
So I played.
You
like,
had a better idea of what to play. Because...
Yeah. Well, I could watch a TV show and they were talking about like they were hyping God of War up so much. Like
because
they were
you could actually see game footage and not be like, well, this box art looks
exactly.
Cool.
Yep. So I could
that
be
makes
like,
sense.
like Adam Sessler says God of War is cool. He says it's great. They're making it sound awesome. I've seen gameplay footage. The combos look cool. They're saying it plays so well. I'm gonna rent it and I'm gonna beat it. So I rented it. Didn't go to bed till I beat it. Metal Gear I had a better idea for, but again, Metal Gear 3, I had beaten 2, and I was like, which is the best one. I had beaten 2, and was like so hyped for 3. It was fine, but I loved it at the time, but in the big picture, definitely under 2. But I think that was and like Kingdom Hearts. So I was like, oh, it's like I bought Kingdom Hearts because I loved Final Fantasy.
Sure.
Not because I cared about Disney. I was like kind of against it, but I bought it and I was like, this is really cool. And then Kingdom Hearts, like I remember, I think Kingdom Hearts 1, I got on, it came out right around my birthday. This one I actually do want to check because this one is kind of important. Kingdom.
Did you want it mostly to fill the Final Fantasy void?
Yeah. I mean,
makes sense.
I bought it because it had the Final Fantasy characters in it that I loved. Mm-hmm. So Kingdom Hearts first came out March 20th, 2002. Okay, what about Kingdom Hearts 2? Because I remember... Nope, that one came out too. Maybe I didn't get it for a birthday then. I know there was a birthday where I played it for like 15 hours straight.
They're like, Richard, come eat cake. Like, no, I'm playing,
this one came out in March. Well, no, all my friends were there with me, so we stayed up till like 5 a.m, kind of thing. Yeah, like I remember my mom waking up to like start like to like clean up and make breakfast for us, like me and my friends that were spending the night, and having to like turn the TV off and pretend to be asleep and then just go to bed because. Like there was a boss fight. It was Maleficent, the dragon. Yeah, couldn't beat her. So hard, but I eventually got it. And maybe it wasn't 5 a.m. Maybe it was like closer to 3. And maybe I don't know. I'm second guessing it, but either way, that happened. So those games, I loved Kingdom Hearts though.
Okay.
Those games. So this is when like I started really getting into anime, like watching Inuyasha and Rurouni Kenshin a lot, and Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho. Like I was getting really into just Japanese shit, and I was like, Kingdom Hearts is Japanese. Fuck yeah! Like this is cool.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4, like all these things. Like I learned more about the internet. I had a really good friend named Michael who he had internet at his house. So this is when my mom still did not have internet. So I would go to his house and we'd just go online and like get in anime chat rooms and like learn about shit and watch things on the internet. I learned about piracy and we would download, like I would download, my dad had internet, so we would download Dragon Ball Z videos, like all the, like the world changed in the sense of this, in this PS2, era where like I knew how to find things. Like I knew how to go out and find out, do I want to play this game? Fuck yeah, I do. Like, do I want to play Dragon Ball GT Final Bout for the PS1? Yep, Mom, get it for me. Birthday and Christmas. But it's $300. Yep.
Birthday and Christmas,
yep.
I said.
And then, yep, and she said, we'll try. Like, maybe me and your dad can work something out. I'm like, you do what you got to do, because I need that Dragon Ball Z game. You had to import it from Japan. Luckily we weren't able to get it because we found out you needed a PAL PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
And that was going to be way too, and they're like, maybe next year we can get the PlayStation and the game. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I want. Turns around like a little while later, my friend Michael shows up. He's like, here's Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. They had re-released it in America at Target for like $15, and he convinced his mom to buy it for me for like a super late or early birthday present or something. But yeah, so PS2 was really important, but there weren't any. It wasn't a specific game. We didn't have like the Tekken 3 moment. We didn't have the Diablo 2 moment. You know what I mean? There wasn't like a standout game or franchise that changed everything. Again, Kingdom Hearts was pretty important to me, but that kind of went off from Final Fantasy. I was still like a die-hard Final Fantasy fan through and through. During this time, Game Boy Advance also happened. I know I had my Game Boy Advance in 6th grade, so, little earlier, some play somewhere in there, more Pokemon shit.
Did you play any of the Castlevanias?
Not on Game Boy Advance. That was on
Fair enough.
DS.
Okay.
The Metroid, like the Ego ones on DS, which I had a DS Lite, and that's in here too because something really important happened with that DS Lite.
Okay.
But the Game Boy Advance, there was a game called Golden Sun. It was an RPG where you had like these summons. really
remember that.
really cool game. I wish they would like re-release it on PC. I'd play that game again. Really fun. But yeah, more Pokemon. Nothing crazy there. PC Part 2 comes along. So Diablo 2, probably in 8th grade, I start to fizzle out. 9th grade, it's like
You
getting
switched more into watching anime.
Yeah, it's getting older. A lot of the friends that I had were kind of like, they were like, everyone was like, because I was like 12 when I was playing Diablo 2, and all the friends I had were like 16 or 17. So like when I'm 7 and they're 16, it's a lot easier to like feel bad. But when I'm 12 and they're 17, it's like, oh, they're just like an annoying little kid kind of thing.
Sure.
So going on from that back into PC, this is, well, yeah, because PlayStation 2 is pretty much from like 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade up to like into high school.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 2005. I'm trying to think, because 2005 is when we started high school. So I don't know, somewhere in there, I played Final Fantasy 11. That was the MMO. My dad bought it for me. I told him there was a monthly subscription. He was like, "You can't get the monthly subscription. Like, I'm not paying for that because I could only play it at his house because my mom didn't have the internet." It's like, but I was like, but I get 30 days to play for free. Like, at least let me play it. Like, I want to play every Final Fantasy game. Like, how important this series is to me. He said, okay, bought the game. It's hard. I didn't know how to fucking play. I was too young to understand MMOs, really. I mean, I understood how to play it, but I didn't have any friends that played it. I didn't know how to make friends in an online game because it was different than Diablo. Like Diablo, like you were in a chat room, like in a channel, and you were like, or like made a game, like a public game, like trying to do this run, and people would jump into your game, and you just kind of meet them. Like it was like,
whereas in an MMO, it's just
like,
kind of like
here's
a
the world, find someone nice.
I'll give you 300 gil for girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. And well, the hard part about Final Fantasy 11 is if you died, you lost experience.
Yep.
And it got to a certain point where like you had to like get into a party to fight monsters because they wanted that same, like, you need your 4 party members to fight, but you always needed a healer and a tank, and everyone was a DPS. So it's like, well, we'll sit here for 6 hours, and I only had, a couple hours every other weekend to play it.
Sure.
So didn't work out. I ended up playing it again later when I finally convinced my mom to get the internet. I think an expansion came out. That's what it was. An expansion came out, and I was like, this looks so fucking cool. There's a samurai. You can like, mom, give me. So I ended up like, allowance money or something, bought it, got a month or 2 of subscription. I remember being like angsty in my room, blasting like some like screamo music and playing Final Fantasy 11. But then something,
as you do.
Yeah. But then something really weird happened. It's a game called World of Warcraft came out.
Okay.
And I was in a guild. They called them Link Shells in 11. I didn't really have any friends that played it. And World of Warcraft came out. I remember trying it and be like, meh. I didn't play it. A little more time goes on. Go back to the PS2, piddle paddle with there. But then there's this expansion coming out for World of Warcraft, and I start seeing some advertisements. And I'm like, oh, that looks neat. And then so I jump back in. I think I convinced my dad to pay for it. I jump back in, and I was like, yeah, this is the only game I'll need. Like, you wanted to buy me games, like you just pay the monthly subscription and. Right? Like, come on, Dad. So he did it. I tried to show it to him. He didn't like it. He ended up playing it for a long time because of that fucking South Park episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that got him and my stepmom to finally give it a chance. But I remember jumping in, making friends somehow, one way or another, on this server. But then them leaving, so I switched servers to a roleplay server.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the good shit. So this is probably this is probably 2006, roughly, I would say. So like PS2 is pretty much done for me. PS3 is like coming out, but I don't fucking care because I got World of Warcraft. Yeah. So I played that for a really long time, years, like till 2010-ish, 2009. The end. So I quit playing when I started college.
Okay.
I quit, but it wasn't, it was like perfect timing sort of thing. Like I fell out of the game. when I was going to college. At that point, I had a gaming laptop, so I would like pirate games all the time. Because I was a stupid fucking kid. So I played like Fear, that scary first-person shooter.
Oh,
So good. Fuck, that game was awesome. Peggle. Played a fuck ton of Peggle. Random MMOs that were just free online. But World of Warcraft, for that whole period, like, I was in a role-playing guild. I would eventually the end of my like lifetime with that game, I was paying a monthly subscription to hang out on the forums. And that's when I stopped. I was like, Dad, you got to cut me off because I'm not playing and it's not worth it. Like the friends that I've made, I'm friends with like on AIM or whatever the hell I was using. Like I talk to them outside of the game in the forums, like, you know. And I'm not going to go into the years of shit that went down in that World of Warcraft. Just know I was the best warlock in the world. Hands down.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just thought of something, actually.
What?
If it wasn't for World of Warcraft, you would have probably given a shit about PS3. You probably would have bought Metal Gear Solid 4, played it, and we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah.
Because I bought my PS3 for Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yep.
And then you played it in my dorm room.
And that's how I
3
became
years
friends.
later.
Yeah. That's here. We'll get to that.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Oh.
Let's go.
Because, yeah. What time are we at? Do you know? Can you see? Is it
Hour
long?
and 10 minutes.
All right.
How about
We're wrapping up, though. We're getting close to the end. Down by the corner.
I mean, we fucked around for like 20 minutes at the beginning.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, anyways. So, yeah, World of Warcraft, insane. Like, that was super important. And I think anyone that plays it, I think a lot of people really hate that game because it may have had some caused problems with family and friends and things like that. And, like, I get it. I would skip dinner all the time. I would, like, my mom she would get so mad at me because I would sit in my room and, like, I had a girlfriend, and luckily, thank fucking God, she was cool about it because I don't want to know what problems that would have caused. Or I'd be like, hey, what are you doing tonight? You want to, like, talk on the phone? I'm like, no, I'm chatting with Azzy, like, Azure on. And then she's like, oh, God, you're always talking to him. I'm like, I know, he's my best friend. Turned out to be, like, an 11-year-old kid, but.
Nice.
Yeah, whatever. All kinds of, typical MMO weirdness. Plus, I was role-playing, so that was extra weird. But I made I'm still friends with, a handful of people that I met there. So shout out to you, Brian. Shout out to you. Oh, fuck. What's your real name? Fuck. Thomas. Donug. Drakthor. Shout out to you, Gerardus. Shout out to you. I think that's it. There was Mark and Nikki. There was some shit. I almost moved to New York.
Oh yeah, I remember that story.
There's some crazy.
We'll talk
things.
about that at a later date.
Maybe. I don't know. That's where things got weird. But yeah, that could be a topic on its own. Really, that was the weird shit. But at a certain point, I mentioned I'll talk about the DS. I played that Iga Castlevania. I can't remember the specific name of it. Mirror of Reflections or something like that. What are you doing? You're making me nervous over there. I can't see.
I've got a gun.
Oh, God.
Better wrap it up.
But I got a DS Lite and a bunch of GBA games. Do you know what these GBA games were? Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. I thought it was like one of them may have been a Pokemon.
Well, yeah, I played Pokemon on GBA, but who fuck cares about that?
Nobody.
Final Fantasy 1 through 6. This is where things got serious. So by this time, I had beaten 7 and 9. I had not ever beaten 8 because for a while my PlayStation was only at my dad's because that's where they had a copy of Final Fantasy 7 at until we got our own. And I had a younger stepbrother who, God bless your heart, Luke, would just delete my saves. He would save over my games. So there was a lot of family fighting and shit. He was a kid, he was like 4 or 5 years younger than me. So at the time, he was like 4 or 5. He didn't know. And no matter how many, he just wanted to play a game, and he just knew how to save it. And he was like, I thought, whatever. Yeah. So I never beat 8 because of that. I remember I was at the end, and 8. It's not my least favorite. It's a fun game, but the story didn't capture me as much as the other ones did.
Sure.
So I was like, I don't think I can play through that again. I'm just going to say goodbye. And I've tried it multiple times. I have it on Steam because I'm like, I'm going to finally beat this game. And nope. So I put it in the list of Final Fantasy that I've beat. I was at like the last boss fight.
Okay. But you basically beat it.
Technically, never actually beat it. Yeah.
Just like I basically beat Dragon Age, the first one.
Origins?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah?
I couldn't beat the last dragon because I fucked up who I was sending where. And I just said, no.
That game broke. I've told you that story though. Yeah, that's a bummer. That was a fun game. Good throwback. But yeah, never beat Final Fantasy 1, never beat Final Fantasy 8. So to beat 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Never beat 12 either, actually. 10.
10-2?
I did not beat 10-2. I played 10-2. I think 10-2 again. I think I got to the end and I just never beat it. I think I couldn't beat that one. Yeah, that sounds right. Because I had to fight Sin. And that sounds, I think, I don't know.
That's the big whale, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 I played Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, he did. Checked shot.
I played 3/4 of it, and then I was like, oh, God of War 2 came out.
Bye. Yeah. So that, I mean, DS Lite was incredibly important because of that. There were some other games I was playing. Final Fantasy 3. I actually never beat 3 either. So 3, technically never beat 8, never beat 12 or 3. Or 10-2, but I don't count 10-2. It's not real.
Sure.
3 was because I came back from class one day in college when I was playing through it, and my DS was broken. So, fuck you, Arwen.
You know what you did. You know who you are, what you did.
Yeah. But we're getting close to the end here, Matt. So
we're in college now.
We're in college. I'm not playing games really. Like that happens to my DS. Like I'm not playing. Done. I have. So I played Final Fantasy 14 beta. Mm-hmm. I played Ion Online beta, like random MMOs on my PC, or my gaming laptop thing. But I didn't really play much. I was in school. I was getting really into music.
Yeah.
And so my focus from game, like I didn't have a TV there, so I didn't have any consoles with me. Sure. So I kind of was like, well, I can't afford a PS3, and I'll play it someday. Like a Metal Gear 4. I was like, it looks
Played in my door.
I was like, it looks so good, and we're not there yet. I'll play it someday. I'm just
so excited.
I know, but then there's this motherfucker, and I don't know. We became friends on Facebook because of Metal Gear.
Yeah, but I don't know what the mutual friend was.
We had a mutual friend. I don't know.
I said something about Snake.
Yeah, but I added him. I remember adding him because I was like, oh, he likes Metal Gear. That's cool.
I'm cool.
Yeah. And it was summertime, the summer before our sophomore year. I'd never met you before in my life, but I'd seen you on campus. Mm-hmm. And I messaged you on Facebook. And we talked about, I asked if you had Metal Gear 4 or something like that. And I was like, do you like Metal Gear? Or
before that, I commented on your profile picture. The first thing I said to this guy is, you look like the killer from The Lovely Bones.
Yep. I remember.
It was the glasses. Those weren't your real glasses, were they?
There were no lenses. Okay. They were reading glasses that we popped the lenses out to look cool. But we talked about Metal Gear. I remember being like, would you care if I was like, I've never played it. I don't own a PS3. I didn't have any friends that had a PS3. I did. I take this back. I had one friend, but he didn't like Metal Gear. But I did play Demon's Souls. This was during the WoW time. Couldn't get past the first bridge.
Nice.
Yeah. We had no clue what the fuck we were doing. Uh-huh. Otherwise, it was all WoW and like Skate 2 on 360 when we were taking breaks. So go to your. We talked to you. Like, yeah, dude. You need to play Metal Gear 4. If you love Metal Gear and haven't played 4, you have to do it. And I was like, okay. Like, oh, you live on the same floor as my best friend Jim. That's convenient. So I remember like Jim wanted to hang out, and I'd be like, I'm going to Matt. He lives down the hall. I'm going to play Metal Gear. You can come watch if you want. So basically, it's like the first few weeks of school, I go to a stranger's dorm, and I play Metal Gear.
Well, I'm pretty sure every time Drebin was on screen,
Chris Rock. I
just yelled like Chris Rock over all of his lines.
Yeah, you impersonated Chris Rock, and yep.
That's great.
And then we met well, eventually we met Devin, and then we could put Drebin on that marker board. Were you there for that? Yeah.
But that's how I met Jim too, through you.
Yeah, that's how I met Jim. We have a good friend, Jim. He makes the music. All the music on this channel is from Jim. So thank you, Jim. Shout out to Jim. Lots of shout outs this video.
Yeah.
So that's how we become friends. I play Metal Gear 4, sleep through the ending.
That's right.
I get through the whole game, and that fucking 3-hour cutscene at the end, I'm just like, because it was like 2 a.m, and you were like, no, you can beat it tonight. You can beat it. And I'm like, okay. And I get through the whole thing, and I'm just like, fuck. And I remember like waking up and like looking around, and like you were just like, and like Tyler was like over here and just like also like kind of like crying at his desk, and I'm like, that was good. That was really emotional. Yeah. Still a great game, but you know. So that's how we met. And eventually it was that same year as my sophomore year. It was colder out, I think.
Wintertime, maybe.
Maybe fall. Well, yeah, maybe winter. Maybe like November. I get my refund because I had too many loans.
That's right.
And I was like, it's time, boys.
It was like November, I think.
Yeah. Jacket weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's time, boys. We're going to Target. So we go to Target, and I buy my first console with my own money. With a PS3.
Yeah.
And
Killzone 3? I think it was.
It came with Killzone 3.
And we played it online first for like a little bit.
But it came with Killzone 3. No. Yeah? No.
Yeah. It was 3.
You sure?
Because jetpacks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bought Bad Company 2. And those are and I think Metal Gear 4. Just to have it. I own it. Those are the games I had. Those 3. Because you also had Bad Company 2. You had a bunch of other fucking games on PS3. I didn't know, like Time Splitters or something. I don't know what games they were.
It was like Resistance, those.
Yeah, I don't know. I had no idea.
I was there from the beginning, so I had a lot of fucking games.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't care about these franchises that I've never heard of. So all I cared about was Bad Company 2.
Because we would play it
all the time. That was
like
such
every
a good
night.
game. Yeah. So that was fun. But then something happened. I had heard about this game called Uncharted. Right? You didn't own any Uncharted games. But you had played them. I think. Yeah. No, you never owned them.
I didn't own the first one.
Did you own the second one?
I had the second one at this point.
Okay.
Because I played
That's
through the
right.
first
That's
one.
right. That's right. Well, no one had the first one except for my friend Colin. Shout out to Colin, who let me borrow it and fucking hated it.
That's right.
It takes me a long time to beat Uncharted 1 because of a lot of things. It was summertime. That's what it was. It took me a long time because he let me borrow it, and then I took it to my dorm, and I didn't have time to play it for a while. And then I remember actually getting into it after school. I had taken it home to my mom's with me when I went back for the summer and beat it there. And this is when we were working at Target. I beat it. I had to leave for work in like 45 minutes. So I beat the game, and I was like, holy fuck. And drove to my local Target down the street, bought Uncharted 2, brought it home, put it in the PlayStation 3, just so I knew it was there as soon as I got home, because I was so hyped.
You were ready.
I was in it. I was like, I didn't know games could be like this. Like it was just wow to me. You know what? Like that was a moment, and that's why we got Little Drake here. Mm-hmm. So
thanks, Uncharted 3 Collector's Edition.
Hey, he's leaning hard again.
Mm-hmm.
He's just gonna fall back. Yep. So that was a moment, and I was like, Naughty Dog is good. I don't know. I was like, I know that name, and I don't know why it was fucking Crash, but you know, it's like Naughty Dog is good. They make good shit.
Real good.
So
game.
I play 2. 2's even better. And
that opening on the train.
So good. And I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, how can shit be like this? And then 3 gets announced. And then when 3 is announced, school's back in session. I've beaten 1 and 2 over the summer. I have... during that summer, I got into Demon Souls.
That's right, because you texted me. You were like, you need to fucking buy this game.
Yeah. I got into Demon Souls. I bought it. I don't remember. I think my friend Devin talked to me about it. I ended up like kind of like living with him most of the summer.
The summer you got your MacBook.
Yep. This little baby here. That was 2011 for sure. Or maybe it's 2011. Summer 2011. And I loved Demon Souls so much. That was like, once I figured out how to play it and how it worked, and you got over that like initial like shock factor that it was like hard.
You're like, what this doesn't tell me how to do it?
Yeah.
Well, this is dumb.
I was like, oh, okay. Like it made sense to me. So that was cool. Dark Souls came out on your the day before your birthday or whatever, or on your birthday.
That's right.
Yeah. So
we were hyped. We were so hyped for that.
How had Uncharted 3 come out by that point? Do you remember?
I don't think so.
Okay. So yeah, Dark Souls was an incredible moment. You brought your TV to my apartment, my tiny little 4-bedroom apartment on campus, set it up on that kitchen table, and I remember like we were gonna go out to get a midnight release, but they didn't have it because the one in Maplewood wasn't doing it, and we didn't know where else to go. So we get it together, play through it the next day, but I had to go to bed. We got to the Gaping Dragon. I think I was a little farther ahead of you because class, or I didn't have class or something. And I remember you were fighting the Gaping Dragon, and I was like, I gotta go to bed. I have to work at 8. And you're like, okay, good night. I'm gonna play this. And I'm laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I just hear, no, like
the saddest.
Yeah,
like no.
It was like the
Darth Vader.
Yeah,
at the end of episode 3.
I was just like, what the fuck happened? And you lost everything. You like died and ran in to get your shit and didn't pick it up and died again. And yeah,
it was like,
that's like, I'll never forget that moment where
it was only 70,000 souls.
Yeah,
too,
I know.
which like eventually doesn't even matter.
But we didn't know that.
Yeah.
It that was a great game. Uncharted 3 though, I pre-ordered it. That was like that was the first game I had pre-ordered. You like did like Dead Space 2 and got that stupid little fucking light gun thing.
I thought it would be bigger.
I know.
I was so
like,
disappointed.
Yeah, that's what she said. So Uncharted 3, my favorite one. I think the best one. I remember like it was the little things. I remember having this conversation. That was another game I beat in 2 sittings. I just like
I remember that.
Yeah, I was like I want to go on the internet, but I'm scared. Like spoilers. So I remember like the little things where you'd like walk through the hallways and he'd like put his hand when you'd walk around a corner, and I'm just like, or like go through crowds, which they had in like Assassin's Creed a little bit and stuff. But I was like, this game plays well though. Like this game controls well and feels good, whereas Assassin's Creed is just Assassin's Creed. So that was at that point when 3 came out and I played 1 and 2 of Uncharted, I was like, a Naughty Dog favorite developer. Easy peasy, brown and cheesy. Last of Us, favorite game of all time. Not going to go into much about that. You were in Seattle. I was. You were in Seattle. It was sad.
You told me that I needed to buy it
and you
the
didn't
day
have
of
money.
release,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't have any money.
And I told you, no, you don't have an option. You need to buy it day of release.
So I went out and bought it. I think I put it on my credit card or something.
That game's so
Worth
good,
it.
man. Yeah. Okay. Dark Souls 2 came out at some point. You know, we played that shit. But I would say during the PS3, Uncharted and The Last of Us and Demon Souls and Dark Souls, those are like really big like pinnacle points. And I played PC a little bit there. I like got into StarCraft 2. Unfortunately, it was a 20th birthday party. I remember I went back to was when we lived off campus together, and I went back to gyms to play Ni no Kuni.
Yep.
So, you know, unfortunately, I got sucked into StarCraft 2 for a little bit because that Swarm or whatever expansion came out. But nothing too crazy on the PC side. So, PS3, you know, played games that came out after that, like Grand Theft Auto stuff. PS4,
some games that I convinced you to buy just to play with me.
Like what?
Like GTA 5.
No, I had played GTA 3 a little bit. It was fine, but it was one of those like my mom would never let me buy it sort of thing, which wasn't normally like a big deal. Like she wasn't like crazy about it.
Sure.
But she, I don't know. She would have problems with it because I had friends that would bring it over and she'd like she would be like, this is disgusting kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is that Grand Theft Auto, and I understand that, but so never really a series that I was like enamored with. You know what I mean? It never like got me, but 5 looked really cool. Like the more and more I saw about 5, like our friend Trevor, shout out to Trevor, was really interested in 5, and he was, I was like, oh, well, Trevor's like really cool and smart. So like, if he likes a game, then it must be really good because he doesn't even like games. So yeah. Just whatever. I don't remember anything else cool. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing. Trevor didn't have a 360 for like 2 years at this point, and played Battlefield 3 and went like 52 and
11 or something like that. Yeah.
Something ridiculous.
He's really good at games. Like first person shooters, he's really good at them. Don't know why. I let him come over and play my Battlefield 3 on PS3
and
online.
Was gross to watch.
He ruined my matchmaking because I couldn't hang in. Like he got me to an Eagle Boy, remember?
Yeah.
He got to Eagle Boy and I couldn't hang after that. So, it is what it is, I guess. But PS4 launches. Matt's in Seattle, doesn't have money. We went over this on his episode. I get one pretty close to launch. I get Battlefield 4, Killzone Shadowfall. And
there was a third one that I can't remember.
There was Outlast. I mean, it was like the PS Plus games.
That's right. That's what it was.
And Resogun. Those are the 4 I had. They're fine. And I didn't beat any of them. I didn't even play the campaign in Battlefield 4 at all.
You didn't have to.
Yeah.
I played it for you.
Yeah, you did. That's right. That's right. You got those trophies for me. And I pretty much got it just because I was like hyped up in the moment, I think. Like there wasn't anything really that I wanted to play. Battlefield 4 looked cool.
I was coming home and you were like, I'm going to surprise him.
Yeah. And I wanted to get one at launch. Awesome. I had never gotten a console at launch. You know what I mean? I couldn't like be a part of that zeitgeist.
It feels good.
Like that was that PS4 was my moment for that. So I got it. And when I was making my notes this morning, we're getting near the end because we're at PS4. I didn't think about I was thinking about, I'm like, there really haven't been a lot of like insanely crazy great games on PS4 yet, and I think that's this year.
2015 Bloodborne is the only one that stands out to me.
Yeah, I mean, literally in my list is Bloodborne, Dying Light, Indies.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of like Sony's initiative on getting indies on the PS4. I think has been really good. There have been a lot of really good indie titles on PS4, like the Ali Ali game.
Yeah,
super great. Yeah. I know people said a lot of good things, and that's the thing about indies that I have a hard time is there's just a lot of them that are usually pretty good. That it's hard to kind of get them all. But I still have to play Journey. I have that on my PS4.
That's true.
I started playing through Flower. I wanted to go through like that game company stuff. Dying Light's really fun. I'm coming, like, I played it again the other day, and I'm coming to the realization that I don't think I'm ever going to beat it, but that's fine. Sure. I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's just like it's getting harder, so I can't take as much time off as I probably am going to have to, especially
to devote to it.
Yeah, with things like Firewatch coming out in a couple days and things like that. So
yeah, that's right.
But I think this year, we have like our Firewatch. I'm excited for the Division.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
We played the beta a little bit.
The beta was really fun.
Dark Souls 3.
In
like a month.
Horizon, Uncharted 4. Like this month is fucking jam packed. Doom. I mean, it's going to be a good year, I think. So
like 2016 has the potential to be like one of the staple years of gaming, for sure.
In like all of history.
Yeah. Like how
that's pretty bold.
There's every like 7
maybe this generation easily, you know what I mean, but we don't know for sure. It sounds like it will be, but
like every 7 years there's like a year that you're just like, holy shit, like 18 fucking killer games came out.
Yeah.
Could be this year,
could be, we'll see. Fallout 4 was good, that's fine. I liked it. Never beat it. Probably never will beat it.
DLC.
Yeah, you'll get through it. But there's one last bit There's one game.
Oh, PC3.
PC Part 3.
Yeah.
I play some indies on my PlayStation as well.
Uh-huh.
But here's the last thing. And this, so remembering the questions that I asked you before, it's what do you do when you're not playing games, I think is left. And I pretty much answered, I think, all the questions just going through this whole list of
really
like,
did.
like, what do you, how is your, what were they, how was your taste changed? What did you play when you were younger? I mean, I kind of put that all into one, just fucking long
periods of life that you didn't play games. And
so
why.
that's, yeah,
I mean, that just,
yeah.
it's all done. I've been checking them off.
Really?
In my head.
Good. In your head, okay. But there's one piece left, and this happened during PS4 when it was kind of like, it was before Bloodborne. We were like, this is when Project Beast happened. I remember because we both worked at Best Buy.
Yep.
And we talked to Paul about Project Beast, but he's the one that got me into Dota 2. And we probably have to do I would be interested in doing our own topic on Dota 2, honestly.
I'm down.
Maybe we can like Skype him in or something.
Okay.
I'd be interested in doing that. But hard to put into words, probably the best game I've ever played. But
that's a bold statement.
I mean, it's a hard statement to explain as well. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think you kind of have to like get the feeling, because it's not when I say like The Last of Us is the best game like I've ever played and Dota 2 is the best game I've ever played. It's for very different reasons, and I feel like I could have them both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's weird.
The depth of Dota 2 staggers me.
Yeah.
Because like even people that have been playing it for years, like anytime a new patch goes out, they freak out.
Well, yeah, I sent you those videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's interesting. I don't know. It's I would probably have to like write a piece about it or something. Like, I could talk a lot about that, but I play Dota 2. I think my clock is 900 hours now, which honestly isn't much. Like because when I started playing, I quit playing and then I jumped back in, and then I played like 40 hours a week. Every week for like 3 months, because I was like, I'm gonna go pro. Fuck it. Like, I like this, and I'm just gonna put the time in and figure it out. And then I was like, I have other things to do. I can't do this. So
I think I was playing Destiny, so you were just like, fuck it.
Yep. Yeah, that's when you were exactly right. That's when you were playing Destiny. So we just both played our games and
we both played our games.
Did what
way
we did.
Too many hours in the day.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's great because it's a game that will always be there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No matter how frustrating it gets, no matter how mad I get at it, no matter how bad I get at it, it's there. And it's like riding a bike. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never forget you never forget how to play Ember Spirit. Mm-hmm. You might have to play 2 or 3 games to remember to slide a fist Remnant out. Right? Yeah, exactly. But that's what I point though. Like, yeah. I was like taking a shower this morning, and because I played Dota last night at our friend Justin's. Shout out to Justin. And I was trying to trade an item, and it said I couldn't. So I was like, maybe if I play a game, because you haven't been active in a while, we'll try that. And so I played a game, and I played Ember Spirit, and like I was taking a shower this morning, and I was like, even though it wasn't on my account at my skill level, I was still thinking about, I was like, I did this wrong, and I did this wrong. I need to do this going forward. Oh, I didn't think about doing this in this situation. I was like, because I was getting, like, I don't remember the name of every skill. Sven's, like, Hammer Fist or whatever it's called. Storm Hammer, I think is what it's called. It stuns you. I was remnanting to try and disjoint it, but it wasn't disjointing. But I was like, well, if I did the Sleight of Fist and then remnanted it, I wonder if that would disjoint it. It might not even be able to be disjointed anymore. I don't know. Those are questions that I'll have to find out. But that's the kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, I think about The Last of Us, and like, that was such a great experience. But Dota 2 is like
the best game.
It's like a lifelong like learning path. It goes back to the Tekken 3 days or the Wheel of Time demo stuff, where I had a friend to play with to get better and better and better, but now I have the whole world to play with and get better and better and better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
totally.
Will I ever be, a professional? No. Will I ever be really good? Probably not, comparatively, but that's fine because I still have fun getting better.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Because whenever I found out I was the top 10% of Killzone 2 players in the world, I like shit myself.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I still think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So like competitive gaming, yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah,
the
so
appeal.
I don't know. That's where I'm at now. I play Dota. There are times when I don't play Dota. I'm playing it a lot lately because I know I'm gonna have to give it up very soon for like Dark Souls 3 and the Division. Like I'm just gonna have to say bye for a minute. So, you know, that's how it is, and that's pretty much my history in gaming.
Very in depth.
Yeah. Again,
Played the Metal Gears in order.
I did. I played 1. I played a demo of 1, and then I played 1, then I played 2, then I played 3, then I played 4, then I played 5. I played Peace Walker before 5. And then I played Ground Zeroes and then 5. If you want to throw all that shit in there. I played Metal Gear Acid once in my 8th grade science class. My friend Tommy had it on his PSP. Jesus. I was like, this is a card game. I don't know what I'm doing. Fuck this. He was like, yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm like, all right, whatever, man.
He's dead now.
Yeah, he got me into StarCraft. He's not dead now. He's a doctor. So.
Might as well be dead.
Yeah. And when I'm not, yeah, shout out doctors. When I'm not gaming, I'm editing videos for this channel.
I didn't even ask that question yet.
I know,
but that's the next one. Outside of gaming, what are your interests?
I edit videos for this channel. I make the thumbnails.
Really good thumbnails. I can't wait to see the one.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take a picture of me. So, I watched Pro Dota. That's like the #1 thing that I do. Bleed Blue. What's up, Fear? Thanks for watching, man. Shout out to Fear.
Sumail, you're my homeboy.
Hey, I got your signature right up there, buddy.
There it is.
That's a cool poster that I got from some guy not from America at TI 5. It's a great poster. Unfortunately, it's in a size that we don't have here in America, so getting a frame for it is going to be much harder than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, I watch professional Dota games all the time. I watch anime shows.
That's a big thing.
I like Death Grips. They're a good band.
Yeah, not so much into music as much anymore.
No, I don't really care.
You've got your bands that you like.
Yeah.
And everything else is terrible.
If I hear something good, then it's fine. But, you know.
Otherwise, it's terrible.
Yeah. For the most part, I mean, you know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll listen to my bad music.
You can. Yeah, you will. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I eat chicken. Trying to look around. I drink bourbon sometimes. I like whiskey. I wanted to be a drummer, but I don't have a drum set. Maybe we'll get one at the new place.
Maybe.
Doubt it.
Basement drums.
Yeah, that's spooky down there.
Spooky drum basement. You were into comics for a while.
Oh, yeah, but that's why I put my cap here. I love my Marvel stuff, but
how many boxes do you have? 4?
6.
6. Fuck.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 in the closet. I had to move them to make room.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to buy my comics, let me know. Hit me up. Put it down in the comments. But that's pretty much it, man. That's me in a nutshell. If you have any more if you have any more questions for me or comments, really, throw them down below. You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Nablith. He's at _Matthew Creek.
I use Twitter sometimes.
Yeah, I use Twitter pretty much every morning for my news.
Mine is mostly Instagram photos.
Yeah.
But I'll sign in and check.
You tweeted the other day.
Yeah.
I was so proud of you. I quoted you and tweeted that I was proud of you. But yeah, hit me up. I'd love to talk about stuff. If you want to play Dota sometime, let me know. I'll do my best. But
nobody talks to me on Twitter, so I will probably respond to every single thing that happens.
Yes, I will too. I mean, I'm not like super popular, but I use it every day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been the final Double Crown Talk Time special hour. Did I forget something?
No.
Oh, okay.
So this is the final episode of the Double Crown Talk Time special hour.
Yeah.
Because we came up with these questions.
But you can come up with your own. And it doesn't have to be about us. You can be like, what did you think about the Konami Kojima thing? I really don't want to fucking talk about that, but...
You got mad at me the last time I brought it up.
I know. Because I'm tired of hearing about it.
You said, I don't fucking care. Slammed the door, and
we were in the car. Well, last time I talked about it, yeah.
I don't remember where
and we were talking about ideas for this show. And you're like, I think we could talk about the whole like Kojima thing. And I was like, fuck no. It played out. No one fucking cares anymore. So that's where we are. But
The new production studios logo looks sick, though.
it does. I tried to buy you a shirt thing, but couldn't. Anyways.
Firecrackers.
Fuck you. Bye.
Thanks for watching.